Good morning, Franciscans. When you see this video, it'll be during our worship times on Sunday. Right now, it's early evening in Great Falls. I'm standing here in our sanctuary. Right in back of me is our green room. For those of you who know it, it's the green space outside. It took me 2 years to find that out when I came here. Franciscans are really proud of their connection to the fields around here and the woods, and it helps them to remember our patron saint. A couple of years ago, in the spring of 2020, I remember Tracy Kelly standing at our memorial garden and filming her way as she walked in. For the first time, we'd actually worshiped by video from the sanctuary since we had done lockdown. It was a wonderful moment. We were still masked, even though there were only 3 of us here. Tracy, Patrick, and me. And I know for a lot of people it was a big moment. We're going into our annual fundraising campaign, and just like the coming back from COVID, people are anxious and there's a lot of fear out there. And this year's campaign is surrounded by this concept of do not be afraid. Now, I will tell you, when Jesus or God says that to people in the Bible, the first thing they should probably think of doing is running in the opposite direction, because Jesus and God are just about to ask them to do something that normal people would find crazy. But faithful people find fulfillment. And that's where it is, and that's why we have taken risks here at St. Francis over the past 58 years to try and proclaim the love of God and to serve our neighbors. And this is the place we've done it from. We started in the elementary school in 1964, and in 1965 somebody had the bright idea to buy this particular spot from the Shandies, and we worshiped in Harris Hall. All of that was crazy. What did you need a new church for? You had St. John's down the way. But people decided they wouldn't be afraid and that they would plant themselves here because they thought the people of Great Falls needed that care too. Now, in that time, since that time, we have, in this place, worshiped God, baptized children, confirmed teenagers, married adults, healed people, reached out to our neighbors at Samaritan Ministry of Greater Washington, Cornerstone in Reston, Second Story in Vienna, Great Patrol in Washington, D.C. and Loudoun County. We do things that are kind of crazy all the time because we can't save everyone and we can't heal everyone and we can't feed the needs of everybody. But God doesn't ask us to do that. He asks us to do what He has called us to do. And that's why as we begin our fundraising campaign for our 2023 year, we're asking all of you to prayerfully consider what it takes to do those ministries here. Because even as things are wonky coming out of COVID and we haven't completely regathered like we were before, we are regathering and we are making those connections both on hybrid worship and videos, but also right here in the church. In addition to asking you to prayerfully consider making a pledge for this coming year, we also want you to prayerfully consider coming back into the church if you haven't already come. Come regularly. We've been worshiping in a way that we've had no particular problems with our health or our gathering together. And we're having more and more ways to come together. In the very near future, we've got a chili cook-off, and let me encourage you to either cook a chili and sign up for that and be here, or come hungry. We've invited the Kresh families to be with us, and they're excited about making that connection. Oh yeah, and that's another thing. For the past 20-odd years, we've actually formed young children to be prepared to go to elementary school. Hundreds of them. And it's all because of the work that you've done and the pledges you've made and the caring that you've given. Now, there's so much more to do, and probably more than we think we can accomplish, but we don't have to accomplish everything. Here are the important things that I think we need to do in the next year. Make sure we have enough funding to do the kind of worship that we're used to having, with a wonderful choir and choir leaders, Larry Vogt and Sasha Berezovsky, and a congregation inspired by them to lift their voices. That we proclaim from these lecterns that God is with us and loves us and points us in the direction to serving our neighbors. And that we carry on the ministries that we have been carrying on for so long with Samaritan and Cornerstone, Second Story, and yes, also our international ministry with our friends in Ezo. And then finally, and most certainly, the real thing is to come together as a community to support one another in our faith journeys. That's what we need. And I am confident that's what you can provide. Now, I will tell you something. Being a member of St. Francis is kind of a strange thing. We don't look and act in many ways like a lot of other churches, but we have this care for one another and for those people who God brings to our doorstep. And that's really important. Somehow, for this grouping of people, we have done something which is also going to be in the letter that we are sending to you this year to consider your pledge for 2023. It was recommended by one of our committee members, a lay person, who clearly knows the Bible. This is what Jesus says in Matthew 6:19. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust consume and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust consume, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Our treasure is in heaven. It's with God. And one of the ways we know and see this is when we gather together and we support St. Francis. So we are prayerfully hopeful that your treasure is with us, because our treasure is with God.
My vestry class was voted in January 2020. It was not long after that, on March 12, 2020, when the world turned upside down and we all went into COVID lockdown. It was a lonely time, and there were very few constants, but one constant for me was my Franciscan family and my faith. Ray and I learned to rely on Zoom and our opportunities to visit with fellow Franciscans. Those moments became a ritual in our lives. And so now, as we come out of those lockdown days, when I come to church, I look around and I always feel so delighted to see a Franciscan face that I might have seen on Zoom, but we haven't seen in church. And I'm always delighted, probably most of you know, whenever I see a newcomer face, so that we can reach out and welcome somebody else into our Franciscan fold. This past year has been quite remarkable as we've begun to come back to church. In April, for Easter, we had over 200 people at services and also at our Easter brunch. And then in May, we had a wonderful dinner on an internationally related theme. It started to feel like normal. Finally, just a few weeks ago, we had a rummage sale. And because everybody had to come inside, there was lots of noise and talk, chatter. It began to feel a little bit like our old country fairs. So now it's time to become normal again. We need an active Sunday school with lots of children's laughter. We need a place for teens, a place for our youth to come and enjoy each other's company. And we need attention paid to our Franciscans and to our welcoming efforts for newcomers. We're now embarking on what is called Stewardship season, that time when all Franciscans are asked to think seriously about how they can support their community. Typically, we think of stewardship as being a good steward to physical things, like a church building or the grounds or altar guild supplies, or outreach commitments. But being a good steward really also means being a good steward to each other. And to be a good steward to each other, we need to support our community. So there's no question that we need your time and talent. We need leadership in fellowship activities. We need lots of help in fellowship activities. We need leadership in welcoming new people. We need leadership really all over in our community. But I believe it also means that we would be enormously blessed and helped if we had an assistant director. David is doing a fabulous job, but as I've watched him over this past year, while we've been trying to come back to normal, I can see that he is juggling many, many, many too many things. We need somebody who will come in and give us the vitality that we're looking for, the energy we're looking for in creating that Sunday school program, in creating a place for you, and in supporting all the pursuits of the Invite, Welcome, Connect committee. I urge you to please consider this for yourselves, for us, for our community, which means so much to all of us. Thank you.
It's my heart, take and see it.